What's up, guys? So we have this little form here where you can create users, and it makes a mutation using GraphQL and sends it to the server and adds that user to the database. And it does this, but then we don't see it actually. So this is our list of users right here, right? If I create a new user like so, new, hit create user, I don't see my list here with the new user there, but if I refresh, I see new pop up. I would like to it so when I type when I type and then create user, it pops up here right away. And we're going to be using what's called optimistic UI to make this happen. I'm going to explain more how that works. We're going to dive right into it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, what this project is, I have links in the description below. This is basically a GraphQL starter kit that I'm using called ReactQL, and it is currently pointed at a GraphQL server that I set up. The GraphQL server is made with Node, and we're just talking to it to get this information right here. So we're making a query request. Alright, so let's jump right into it. So there's this thing called optimistic UI. What the heck is optimistic UI? Why would I want it? This is how you do it too. So I'm going to copy and paste this guy into our code, and I'm going to walk through how it works. So first I want to explain though what the heck optimistic UI is. How optimistic UI works is if I type a name here like Tim and I hit create user, it's going to pop up here immediately. Before I even submit it to the server, it assumes I'm submitting something correct, and that'll validate. Then once it goes to the server comes back and it says, hey, this new Tim user is good, and you don't have to change anything here. Or hey, the Tim user is bad, you're not supposed to make users named Tim, and it gets rid of it here. Now this will make way more sense when we actually code this out if that didn't make sense to you. So wait until we finish coding this and it'll make a ton of sense when you see it in action. Alright, so I'm going to paste this here. If you'd like to get this chunk of code, I'll put the link in the description below to this website right here. This is the Apollo documentation site, and you can see the link right here. It's just optimistic UI. Alright, so got the code here. Now we're going to modify this for our own thing. So we're going to start type name mutation is perfect, submit comment. This is the name of your mutation. Ours is create user. Type name here is, this is a user type. And then right here, this is what you expect the value to be. So if we look at all users, we expect to have an ID and a username. So we need to have an ID and a username here. So ID, username. So the user that we're creating here, ID I like to just put -1 because we don't really know what the ID is going to be. So it's fine just to put that value. And the username, we actually do know. We're getting it from the state, right? So when we do, we're updating the state, the value that the user inputs, and we expect that value to be the value when we get it back from the server. Okay, so now what we have when we actually update. So we're gonna have right here create user, but then it has a conflict as we're getting this error because it's already in scope. So I'm just going to get rid of that right here and use data. And data is conflicting with this one. So I'm just going to call this data 2. And then this is data 2 here. And this is data 2 here. Okay. So first we're going to read the query. So there's two components to this. There's optimistic response and there's update, right? Optimistic response is what we expect the return from the server to be. So we expect the server to give us back the ID of the user and the username that we passed it. And then update is what we actually do with that data. So the first thing we want to do is we want to read from the store. And we want to get all the users that we already have. So that's going to be the all users query. So we're going to make this query already, and we expect to have an array of users, right? Oops. We expect this array of users to be there. So that's what data 2 is going to be. And data 2 dot all users, right? Because we expect, if we scroll up, we expect data dot all users, and this to actually be an array. We can change this. we don't have to do it there. This was just a comment, but as you can see from the prop types, we expect this to be an array of objects. So we're gonna push another comment, or another, user, and the user is going to be data.createUser. So that's just the response from the server right here that we're grabbing. This data element is actually here, and I recommend just console logging these if you want to see what the values are. But create user matches up with this here, and then all user matches up with our query. And then we're going to just do a store write query, and then here get rid of comment query. We're going to do users. So notice we're using the all users query because that's what we want to see updated, right? Whatever query you want to see updated after a mutation, that's the query you want to pass right here. And also notice we're doing all this stuff in the mutate function. So you can have an optimistic UI for each mutate function you have. All right, so then we add our user. So these, I would recommend reading these comments too. We add our user to the mutation, then we write it back to the cache. All right, cool. And actually, that's it. This is all you need. There's one piece missing. Notice we need to get the ID and username. And we're only getting the username back from the server, so we also need to get the ID back. That way we can, it matches up exactly with this. Because if we just get the username, then we're going to be missing the ID field, and we're expecting the ID field, so it messes things up. And it'll actually throw kind of a warning. It won't work. So that's that. So now I'm going to show you what this looks like. So if we refresh, and if there's no errors, we should see it pop up here after we type. So I'm going to type Tim, hit create user, and bam, Tim shows up immediately. And now I'm going to show you kind of how the optimistic UI works with Sally. Now I'm going to show you, this is the server code. Now I just added this in. I didn't really feel like I need to show you guys this because I'm going to remove this, and this is only for demonstration purposes. But if they pass in the username Sally, I'm going to throw an error. I don't actually want the name Sally. So we're going to get an error when we do this. But because of optimistic UI, we expect for Sally to work. Because right when we create the user Sally, we don't know that that shouldn't work. So it's actually going to display Sally here for like a millisecond, and then when the server throws an error back, it actually removes it here. So what's nice about optimistic UI is it's actually faster. It doesn't wait for the server to respond, it shows it here right away. And it corrects it if it's wrong. For example, Sally's going to be wrong, so watch it pop up here. See it pop up for a millisecond, and then it says, oh, that was an error. Sally can't actually be added there. And then it removes it. You can watch that a couple of times and see it pop up. But if I do any other name, you know, we actually have that already, it pops it up immediately, and then you get the return from the server. It's good, so nothing changes here. Alright, so that is it for this. That's how optimistic UI works. This is a little tricky to set this part up and what the names of everything should be. So if you have any trouble with that, let me know in the comments below, and I'd be happy to help. And that's it for this video. I hope you liked it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do for my next video. It could be authentication, or I might slip something else in the middle before we start doing authentication, because I want to be able to log in and do some stuff with that and show you guys authentication, because that could be really helpful. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.